Welcome back to Unmasking Humanity, Revealing the Human Spirit with Joshua T. Berglan. Today, we're diving into the vital topics of connection, courage, and navigating our increasingly complex world with grace and understanding. I'm your host, Joshua T. Berglan, and I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to Meagan O'Nan. Meagan is the author, speaker, and a powerful voice in helping us build meaningful relationships and find common ground, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. Gotta read this book. Her most recent book, Held and Free, delves into the heart of connection and courage, offering refreshing and practical perspectives that resonate deeply in her current climate. And she's already working on her next book, which will explore finding connection within our often divisive cancel culture, a topic I know many of us are grappling with right now. Meagan's insights have reached people across the globe, and her upcoming TED Talk, TEDx Belttown Women Talk, launching on International Women's Day, focuses on the crucial skill of how to agree with people, a concept that feels revolutionary in today's landscape. And on a personal note, I'm incredibly excited to share a new venture within the World's Mayor Experience. I partnered with a groundbreaking organization as a talent scout, and this is a game changer for creators across all fields. We're offering a lucrative financial model unlike any agency out there, empowering talent with ownership of their content and the freedom to create authentically. This includes diverse revenue streams, along with the comprehensive management and consulting services. Leveraging my expertise in media monetization, I'll be personally guiding and supporting these creators to maximize their impact and income. If you're a creator looking to truly take control of your work and unlock your full potential, I encourage you to reach out to me directly for more information. This is about paying creators what they're worth and providing the support they need to thrive. Now, let's turn our attention to the insightful wisdom of Meagan O'Nan and explore how we can cultivate connection and courage in our lives. Welcome to Unmasking Humanity, Meagan.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. So thank you.
I am too. This is like the perfect way to end Friday or end the week for me. And especially with the topics that we're going to cover today. I sent you an email in the midst of some of the cancellations and the reschedulings and so forth, that I was a huge fan of you. And I was looking into your work, and I get genuinely excited about this interview. And I think it's going to be special, and I think it's going to resonate with people from all walks of life. So it's an absolute honor for me to have you.
Thank you. That really means a lot to me. I really, really appreciate it.
Well, first things first, before we start and get into the questions, I would love to know, what are you grateful for today and why?
Oh, such a good question, and especially a great question to kick off. I am grateful for my 6-year-old daughter. I never thought I would have a family, and she is just the light of my life. Just the other day, we were playing basketball outside because it's one of our favorite things to do after school. And we were having this conversation, and I'm an openly gay woman. I live in Mississippi. That's kind of the bulk of my story, and had a traumatic coming out experience. But as I'm raising Merritt, I'm healing even more because she's bringing such a different perspective to everything that I've been through. And so we're playing basketball, and she says, "Mom, did you know that there's a father-daughter dance tonight at school? We hadn't talked about it that week." She has 2 moms, and I said, "Yeah, I heard," because I try really hard I try to remain very objective when these things come up, because I don't want to put my feelings or my experiences on her. I want her to have her experience and be able to truthfully tell me how she feels, and not what I may or may not be putting on her. And I said, "Yeah, I heard." And she said, "Yeah, my friend told me that I should get a dad because it's fun to have a dad." And I said, "Well, how did that make you feel?" She said, "Oh, I didn't care. I have 2 moms. She should have 2 moms." And she just totally twisted the table for me. And it was just a really meaningful moment. And we have these moments all the time where she just brings such light to these topics that I have really struggled with and doesn't see an issue or doesn't see a problem. And so I'm just every day grateful for her in my life. She's that bright spot, that person who just has changed me even more. And I know you have kids, so you know the feeling, but yeah, I'm grateful for her. Her name is Mira.
That was the most amazing gratitude answer I've had in so long. I mean, that felt sincerely real, and I can't imagine. I wasn't expecting that completely, and it kind of set me back a little bit because that can't be easy. Having battled sexual identity issues most of my life and trying to navigate normal, healthy relationship, and one having multiple personalities with DID, and then those multiple personalities having multiple sexualities, I kind of got a taste of what it was like to be a little bit of everyone. As weird as that is to say.
Yeah.
And of course I went through that battle of trying to pray it away and do those other things, but yet the thing I should have been praying for was peace. And when I found peace and just learning to accept myself for the differences I had, I became whole. And little by little, I quit disassociating after 40 something years of it.
Wow.
And now my identity, I know my identity, but yet the labels that go within that don't even matter to me. I don't need to go, I have ASD or DID, or I have multiple sexualities, or I'm straight, or it doesn't matter. And frankly, it doesn't matter. Yet at the same time, I have compassion for people that do whatever however they choose to identify, even if it's straight. There's a compassion there for that, because I often wonder how many people wear labels just to try to please the people in their lives.
Right.
That's a struggle, and society doesn't make it any easier. And even if you say the breath, like I love God, and then but also say I'm a lesbian, or I'm gay, or I'm bisexual, or I'm trans in the same breath, and then the next thing out of some people's mouths is you're a demon. What are you? There's and then children are subjected to this. But my mom's gay, my dad's gay. And you know what I mean? Think about the damage that's done. Boy, I'm about to go on a soapbox right now. Sorry, I got fired up and emotional at the same time.
It's all good.
Anyway, that was such a I'm going to stop now. But there was such a beautiful gratitude answer. Thank you for that. And maybe some other questions about that will come up, but I would like to get into the questions now. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Right.
I'm ready. I love the passion. Let's go.
I get fired up about these things.
Go.
Meagan, your book, Held and Free, explores connection and courage. What inspired you to delve into these particular themes? And what is the core message you hope readers take away about cultivating both in their lives?
Ooh, good question. So in 2004, I was outed by an ex-boyfriend, and I was in college at the time. And I had been hiding in the closet with a girlfriend for about a year. And after I was outed, I had experiences with the community I was in. I was at Mississippi State, where I was also a part of the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, where people were coming at me, calling me a hypocrite, telling me I was going to go to hell, that I was a sinner, all the things that I was disgusting and that I made them sick. And in this very long day of being outed, I also had to come out to my family because I didn't want someone else to tell them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good time in Mississippi to be gay, right? And my family was scared. And we were talking about labels a little while ago. And I just remember sitting in the chapel with one of my mentors who had been one of my FCA, Christian Fellowship mentors, and him just quoting Bible verses to me. And I remember having that moment on that day when it was so painful and tumultuous and horrible, where I realized that the thing clicked in my mind. I was like, oh, wait, no, I'm not Meagan to them anymore. I'm this label, and this label is bad. This label is bad in in their view, and I can't fix that. There's nothing I can do. And that's when I realized, okay, I have to do my own inner work. I have to survive this moment. I need to get through it. I need to get out of Mississippi. I need to build myself up, build my confidence, and find myself and love myself and make myself whole, right? Because that's my job. And so I went on this journey of being gone for a long time and decided to come back to Mississippi in 2010 because I realized that a part of being whole was facing my past and facing those relationships where I felt hurt or misunderstood, and have been back in Mississippi ever since then. So this book, Held and Free, is about coming into myself, that entire journey of what it was like to suddenly not be the person that people expected me to be, breaking down all those barriers within myself, leaving home, going on this spiritual journey of figuring out who I was and that I was already whole, and then coming home with that perspective and then kind of trudging through these hard conversations, these points of connection that were really tough to get through, and then getting to a place of where realizing that I am already held and free and have always been held and free. I just needed to see it. And so this book is that whole journey. It's a memoir. I dive into all of those hard stories, all those hard conversations, the internal dialogue, the path that I've taken, and how I've ended up to where I am now. So, but the concept and the core message is all about being held and free within yourself and not relying on the validation of others at all in the end.
That hits home on so many levels in so many different ways. And it makes me think that, for the longest time, I tried to fit into, I wanted to be loved and I wanted to be appreciated and I wanted to be respected and I wanted to have friends and I wanted all of these things. And so I was trying to conform myself to fit into their box of what I thought that I needed to be. And I might have found a place in their box for a little bit, but the minute that my true other parts came out of me, then I wasn't in that box anymore. And that could be any box, because it didn't matter if it was the drug crowd, the after hours crowd, the athlete crowd, it didn't matter, the artist crowd. Like, I had all of those interests.
Right.
I would try to fit into all of them. And by doing that, I never had a home at all. And then what I realized, and I was so afraid to be myself, but yet it was the very things, the moment of being honest, first of all, not just about who I am, but being honest with myself about it. And then living that and walking that out and little by little gaining more confidence in my identity. And it was ultimately the only way that I was ever going to be able to receive the love that I wanted or the respect that I had hoped to get. The only way that was even possible was when I just embraced my identity and stood in my identity. And I know that those words because we did bring up the church and things like that, when you say those words, it's your identity in Christ, and you can get into those arguments, but I would argue that your identity in Christ is your true identity. And you do that by following those teachings, because following Jesus and those teachings do lead to the version of your higher self. But the part that I think that people get up and they start, where there is the abuse and the judging and things like that are based on the interpretations of things that were said. And my personal belief, following God, following Christ, is not from a book. It's from within. It's the God inside of us that is guiding us to tell us what's right or wrong. Because here's the thing, I can only have my life as the experiment. When I've listened to other people, including from the church, including the preachers I was under when I was an evangelist and all those other people, when I listened to them, I ended up where I didn't want to be. But when I listened to the God inside of me, I may have ended up in a ditch, but that ditch is where I needed to be to figure out what I was going to be or what I was going to do. I learned that by following this, that was going to lead me to the promised land. That was going to lead me to the truth. And that was going to lead me to my true identity so I could live in that and then be all that I was created to be, even if it looks like somebody that is on the spectrum and all sorts of things in life. Good. I'm enjoying that. In my relationship with God, and other people for that matter has never been better.
Amen.
Does that make sense at all?
Total sense.
Okay.
We're right here.
Okay. Whew. Anyway, let's go to the next question. This fired me up in a way I was not prepared for today. Woo, calm down. I'm like sweating now. Okay. You're currently working on a book about finding connection in our cancel culture. What are some of the key challenges you see in fostering connection in such a diverse environment, a divisive environment? And what are some initial insights you can share on overcoming them?
Oh, it is quite a tense environment we live in, isn't it? Right?
We probably just made it worse, by the way.
It's
Someone's
possible.
going to get upset about something that's been said already, but let's go.
Well, in our current climate, I think a lot, there's a lot of ways to look at it. And one way that I really like to look at it, and people don't really think about, is that we have this entire online world, right? We have the news, we have media, we have everything that's virtual, making things worse and telling us and giving us messages that aren't necessarily true. So you hear and you see things online. Comments are a little bit more brutal than they would be if you were face to face with a human being. And it's kind of like this other world that is obviously very real too, but it's not the real world. And I think people forget to disconnect the two. And what I see when I go out in my community is when I'm dealing with real people and working on real conversations, people typically are going to meet you there in a way that's present, in a way that's a little bit more vulnerable, a little bit more open than they would in this world that we find ourselves in all the time. And what I tell people is that, hey, this, you may think it's more divisive than it is, but it's really not. Look in your community, look where you're spending your time, look who you're with, look how these relationships are actually, I can go into town. I live in a red state, right? I'm very different than everybody here. I walk into a room, I probably make everybody uncomfortable. I really don't care, but we get along. We have trust, we have respect, we're able to coexist, we're able to love each other. And I don't think people are not giving that possibility that much credit. I think it's better than people think it is. And I think we need to come to realize that that's the truth and not the truth of, yes, it's divisive, but it's not as bad as we think. I was on a show recently in Canada, and we were talking about this topic, and it was right after, it was in January, I believe. So, but I was noticing last year during all of the campaigning, getting ready for the election, the county that I live in is half red and half blue. And when I realized driving around, I'm like, God, there's not a lot of campaign signs in people's yards this year. Like, what is going on? And my interpretation of that was like, oh, well, people, number one, don't really want to say what they think because they're afraid of being canceled, or they're afraid of being challenged, or afraid of being misinterpreted. And number two, they probably don't want to hurt their neighbor's feelings because maybe their neighbor is totally different and they don't want to have that discussion. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot going on in people's heads, and that, yes, there are issues. Not that there aren't. There always have been issues. As long as there's humans, there's got to be issues. But I think it's not as bad as people are portraying it to be in the media and on social media. That's my initial thing. Is like, first we have to break that theory, that belief down, and see that there is hope, and to be sure and look into our own communities for that validation, because I think it's absolutely true.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I'm politically agnostic. And it's gone, both sides have gone too extreme for me. And especially, I study media, and I like in all forms of it. And I know how to do research, and because I'm a journalist at heart. And so it's hard for me to align with either party, because I understand the languages that are being spoken that most people don't understand, especially when they talk about the future. Yeah. And I studied, I listened to what the world leaders say. I follow when they release an agenda. That's what I pay attention to, because that's, if you been trekking the last few years, the things that are happening, it's exactly what the world leaders said. When I started preparing, really in 2013, when the Rockefeller report on the future of business came out, and then 2015 when Agenda 2030 came out, I don't think it's any accident that every country agreed to these changes. So as I'm watching the elections go on, I'm just going, well, a 15-minute city and a smart city is the same thing as a freedom city. So you have the freedom, the 15-minute city people and the smart city people, which are typically on the liberal side of things. They're rooting for that, and I understand why.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, they're talking about freedom cities. It's the same exact thing. It's just it's the same agenda. It's just worded different. And so I'm going, all right, I'm not getting in this. I'm just going to, I know what I'm supposed to do in this, and I'm just going to say, and really the other thing too I've noticed is that a lot of the fighting that's going on is a fighting on the difference of communication styles and language, because really they're ultimately wanting the same thing.
Yes.
In the end, we're wanting the same things, but because different language has been used, there's all of a sudden this confusion, and we think we're at odds with each other, and that is done on purpose, by the way. The Pentagon has a propaganda budget. Gosh, I'm going to go on another sermon. I'm not meaning to do this, but there's things in place to keep us busy arguing and confused and fighting, so we don't see what's actually going on around us. And my goal with anything, and it doesn't matter if you're gay, straight, you're Republican, you're liberal, if you're trans, it doesn't matter to me. But my goal is to just at least inspire people to start asking more questions. And if something doesn't look right, or you're like, wait a second, I think I heard it last week, I heard them say this, now they're saying this, ask questions about that, because questions will lead us to the truth. Or we may not get to the truth immediately, but I know one thing: when someone's lying to you, they definitely don't like having questions asked to them.
So true.
Do you have anything you want to add to that, or you want to go to your next question?
No, I'm right there with you. This is kind of what my work in the world is. I talk about the middle ground all the time, being a more centrist perspective, and that throws people off because, obviously I'm a gay person. I should be liberal and, super extreme liberal, and I'm not. I'm very much see things for what they are, and I'm the same. I ask questions. I'm curious, and everybody has a valid point, and we all have the same needs and wants and fears, and so. Like you said, it's a different way of communicating. It's a different way of wanting to get there. And I think when we can actually sit down with someone who maybe sees the world a little bit different than us and ask the real questions and what's really beyond the surface, then, hey, guess what? We're a lot alike.
Mm-hmm.
We have all of the same fears. We have all of the same needs and wants. And so I agree with you. I think it's an agenda being placed upon us, and that's why I said, this is a theory and a belief that we need to break down and focus in on our local communities and the people around us.
Yes.
And what's real when we're out there hanging out with people.
Gosh, I love it. I would say, if I was to label my political ideology centrist, is right on. There's a financial strategy that they're not allowed to teach in finance school. I forgot what it's called, but I just learned about it last night. And essentially, it means that if you're the one creating the work, you're the creator of the product, of the service, of that, you should be rewarded more. So it's a creator focused, and some country does it. It's known after them, and I wish I could remember what it was, because I just learned about it last night. And I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? Because we're in a creator's economy now. And with all the jobs going away, the only thing available will be what we can create. So that means we have the power to take control of our destiny in this new system. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, I don't know if the conversation we were just having, it was a nice segue for this next question or not, but I think it is. Your upcoming TEDx talk focuses on how to agree with people. I'm wondering if you use that on me just now. In a world where disagreement often leads to conflict and disconnection, what are some practical strategies you've discovered for finding common ground and fostering understanding?
Oh, good question. So my TEDx talk launched March 3rd. It launched prematurely. And the title of it is What to Do When You Disagree with Someone You Love.
Ooh.
And it's all about my journey of my coming out experience, which I've already shared. And then I talk about people, coming to me and saying, Meagan, I love you, but I disagree with your lifestyle, and how I kind of move through that whole dynamic, and how I was able to navigate those kind of awkward moments. And then there was one important story, which I'll share now. My mom and I had been very close before I came out. And after I came out, she was very emotionally distant. And we really struggled for many, many years. And after I left Mississippi, it was easy to kind of keep our distance because we were at a distance. Yeah. Once I came back home, we still really struggled. And it was to the point where I was like, okay, like, she does not understand me. I do not understand her. How can we bridge that gap? How can we come to a place of meeting and love and respect where we can just move beyond all of this?
Yeah.
And I got this idea to go back to the beginning. And I asked her, I said, will you write a letter and I'll write a letter to you about my coming out day and what our experiences were. And then let's exchange letters, and then let's have a conversation afterwards. And so I wrote this letter to her about my experience, how I felt rejected, how I didn't feel supported, how, what my experience was that day, because she didn't know everything I'd gone through that day. And then she wrote a letter to me about her fears and how scared she was for me, and how she was losing her best friend to cancer that day, and all these things I didn't know were going on for her.
Oh my gosh.
And so after I read her letter and she read my letter, we were able to both see that we were both just really terrified, really afraid of the future, really afraid of the unknown, how my life was going to look and what that meant for myself, our family. And we were able to meet in the middle around fears, around what we were afraid of. And somehow that clicked for me and that clicked for her. And we were able to see that we agreed on something foundational, a point of human connection, right? Mm-hmm. And then we were able to get to a place where we could move on, and we didn't need to see the world the same way. We didn't need to agree on everything, but because we understood beneath the surface what was really going on with us. So that conversation was kind of the catalyst for how I handled conversations going forward. And what I say in my TED Talk at some point, it's like, we need to get to a point to where we're just more vulnerable and open with people from the get-go, and just say, hey, this topic is really important to me, but I'm afraid of this, or I'm afraid of that, or I'm afraid you won't see me or you won't hear me. And just being more open with people before we enter these conversations, so that we can get a point of human connection. And I think fears is just a great way to do that. And so that's been a great tool for me. And most of the time, I would say nine times out of 10, when I'm in those tense conversations, it really does work. It really opens that door. It allows people to see you for who you are, and not the label they've created or the label that has been created, and have a real and honest conversation. That
is really beautiful, and it actually hits home in a current situation that I have, and that makes I like that, because when you hearing you say that, and then realizing like what the disagreement that I had was really about, it was rooted in fear. Like, I understand it just came out ugly on the other side, which is their issue, like in how they respond.
Right.
That said, I can have compassion and empathy, understanding that now because of the situation. Now, again, there's some personal accountability and other things that need to be taken, but in the end, as far as my part, that's not to me to make them choose to be accountable. But I can have empathy for the situation. So I appreciate that perspective. There's something too like I know that a lot of people have been conditioned based on their religious practice to have an opinion one way or the other about people that don't fall into the traditional gender roles and man and woman and all that. And one of the questions that I asked a lot when I was in ministry to any pastor that would listen to me, because I was trying to understand, like, if we're all spirits and our body's just dust, and I understand that we have different reproductive organs and stuff like that, but if we're just spirits and we're energy, like, how is it really wrong to be attracted to somebody that may have the same genitalia as you? Because energies attract. I mean, look, I don't know a single gay man on the planet that doesn't like boobs. Like, who doesn't love boobs? Everyone loves boobs. I mean, I would guess the majority do. And so then the other things that you think about, what causes attraction, you really get to it, it's energy. Yes, there's cosmetic things that people can do to enhance but like, if we strip everything down to the core of what remains, even if you're just in a mud bath, like, energy can be attractive, right? So, like, I've always asked that question, and I would say probably 80% of the time I'm told to stay in my lane, or I'm given some word salad answer that makes no sense, and I'm going, is that biblical? Well, and then you can get into the arguments too about when certain words were invented and when things were placed in the Bible and when they weren't. That's a whole other conversation I won't get into. But I've never been able to answer that. And, like, even for myself to figure out my identity, because it was very challenging as when I had DID, because the tremors got rid of it somehow. I don't know how that happened, but I stopped disassociating. And then I still have the characters, the alters inside of me, but they all, like, play and interact together now because they know that they're on the same team. And there's a whole deep conversation about how DID is created and how that's even possible. But I did that work with a therapist and was very powerful. So now all my characters are just, like, all over the place and fine. But that's why I say I live on the spectrum. But I would also line to go, the way I simplified this process so I quit being confused and quit going, well, which box do I go in today? Like, am I the mentally ill box today? Am I the depressed box? Am I the, like, bisexual guy? Like, what am I? Like, where do I fit today? And now I'm like, I don't have to worry about that because I'm not thinking about it. I'm just all about the energy now. And that's in all walks of life. Like, I want to put out a loving energy towards everyone that I'm around. I want to uplift people, and that's my focus. If attraction happens in the middle of that, then it happens, but it happened organically, not because something was forced or manufactured or anything else. And I find that to be a very peaceful way of living. And if somebody else has an issue with that, I have no problem now, for the first time in my life, going, that's your problem. It's not mine. I love my life. I'm happy and I'm good with God. I'm doing exactly what God created me to do. What are you going to say about that? You don't need to speak for God. Neither do I. But I can speak for myself and how my life is going because of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you have any comment? Like, that wasn't really a question. It was just like what you said really resonated with me, and it brought up that statement. Like, aren't we just energy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, I love your journey, and I love hearing about your journey, and I very much resonate with everything that you're saying, because ultimately, I agree with you. It's about coming back to yourself and knowing that you're whole and that your spirit is absolutely perfect the way it is, right? I mean, and I think that's, my journey has been very similar to yours. I mean, I know obviously they've looked very different, but it's just coming back to this sense of self, this sense of being grounded, this sense of being okay with who you are and accepting yourself in that. And then once you've done that, how other people view you or how other people see you or what they say to you or how they want to treat you, it just fizzles, right? Like it doesn't impact who you are. It doesn't impact how strong you are, how confident you are. And it doesn't matter to me anymore if people say, hey, Meagan, I love you, but I disagree with your lifestyle. Okay, good for you. I don't care. It doesn't faze me, but it's been a journey to get there, right? Like, it's been a ton of these hard conversations, a ton of these baby steps, a ton of internal work, and really fixing my own internal dialogue, and a continued self-care routine today, right?
Yeah.
But getting to that place where we realize we are whole beings. We are whole. Nothing needs to be fixed. We are already there is such a powerful and empowering place to be. And it keeps you from pointing the finger and blaming and being the victim in life. And it's a hard thing to really teach. It's a hard thing to help people through. Everyone has to take their own journey. But it's essentially the essence of my own healing.
100%.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's good. That is so good. So we'll go to the next question, because this is like a subject that can just marinate in and talk about, because it's a meaningful conversation, but I have other parts of your life that I want to discuss. But like, I think this is healing, because I'm like, for me, like, I'm only really interested in dating or having romantic relationships with female, but I also recognize that I have attraction that's across the board. So that means for me, like, being willing to have that conversation, the honest conversation of like, this is real for me. And it was a conversation I was always scared to have. And then I would do it kind of halfway. I would like tell some of the truth, but not all of it. But little by little, I gained the courage just to be flat out honest, which took my potential dating field and shrunk it. But isn't that really what we want, is to find the right person for us? And what I've learned in my life, that the more true that I am, not just to myself, but to the rest of the world, then that in itself is going to attract the people I want in my life. I would rather people be in my life for the truth, as opposed to some false notion of what they think I am.
Yes.
And that for me was the ultimate piece. And because of that, I'm happy alone for the first time in my life. But I'm also have real relationships, like meaningful friendships and partnerships now that I never had before, but they chose me because of who I am, again, not because of what I was pretending or trying to be. And that's a very empowering place to be.
Absolutely.
I want to go to the next question here, because this one resonates with my original talk show so much. You offer insights on how to turn pain into power and happiness. Can you share your personal experience or a story from your work where you've seen someone effectively transform their pain into a source of strength and even happiness?
It's a big question. For me personally, how I've been able to transform pain into power is to actually feel the pain. And that's not an answer people like to hear. But it has always been really an important step through any hard conversation or interaction that I've had with anyone in the last 20 years. Is that I always need to take a moment to, if I feel hurt, to actually feel the hurt before going back to the conversation. And that has saved me. And it has been a crucial part of my healing journey and getting to the place where I don't feel as hurt anymore. And so I can only speak to my personal journey on that. It's just like that step of letting yourself feel the pain, feel the hurt when someone says something that is hurtful or does something that is hurtful, is to allow yourself to actually stop and feel that and then say what you need to say to that person or in that interaction or whatever it is, that's when transformation can happen in relationships. But it starts with you, and we have to take responsibility for that. It's a step we like to skip these days. We like to just blame and walk away, and not take that moment in that breather to just acknowledge where we are with things.
So good. It reminds me again of all the times of disassociating. And in that time, I cheated, I was abusive, I was a monster. I was everything that is in my book, The Devil Inside Me. I was all of that. And I mean, not more, because I was brutally honest. I didn't hide anything. And I never could stay in myself long enough to feel any of the consequences. Like going to jail, like no effect on me. It wasn't until the 6th time in jail that there was nowhere to run, and I was in isolation. Because I can escape through other people. I could escape because I would get out of jail the next day. Well, this time I'm facing 5 years and there's nowhere to run, and I'm alone in isolation in a psych ward. Like, now what? I think that's where God wanted me. And that's where everything changed for me. But then I still had to heal from GID, which was a journey. I mean, that 10-year journey of that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until the tremors started, and then I lost everything. Again, I didn't feel it the first time that I lost everything. When I was homeless before, I didn't feel that. Like, I didn't have that. I didn't feel the weight of any of it. So there was no changing. There's no changing of the behavior, no learning to be a better steward, or being kind, or learning that maybe I shouldn't say that, because I never was around long enough to learn the lessons. So when the tremors started, all of a sudden I couldn't disassociate. So I felt the loss. I felt the heartbreak, felt the loss of family, felt the loss of the ability to do what I love, felt all of that. And it broke me down and tore me down to the stubs, where the only thing that remained was the only thing that really belonged there. And guess what that was? God's purpose for my life and why I was created. And that ultimately no one could take away from me, even when it looked like I lost everything else. But in retrospect, I was also able to learn a lot of hard lessons that I'd never learned before. I was able to reflect on things about, I could have done that better. I could have done this. Okay, now I'm teaching myself the lesson, so now I don't make those mistakes again. And so to your point, there's feeling the pain is the only way to change. It's the only way to turn it. It's the only way to turn it around, is for it to hurt so bad there's no other option but maybe to face that giant, because that's the easiest. That's actually, of all the other options, there's no other option but to now face it.
Absolutely.
That's the day of everyone's rebirth, is when they get to face the day they decide to face the giant and take it on, to go face another giant and go. But with each giant, there becomes a knowing. It's not even belief at that point. It's a knowing that I was created to overcome that giant.
Yes, and you know you can.
What I'm going to do is teach others how to do the same thing.
Yes.
You got me all fired up today.
I love it. Well, and then there's also people who, say, "Wait, I can't sit in my feelings forever." And my response always is, no, you can't. You can't sit in fear forever. You can't sit in your feelings forever. But if you're really, really feeling it, you're really feeling the pain, it will transform. It always does. If you're really going there and really letting yourself get to the bottom of whatever it is, it's going to transform. You're not going to have to sit in it forever.
I love that. What was the most surprising or unexpected lesson you've learned about human connection through your research, writing, and speaking?
The most surprising thing, and in all of my work, so I work with corporations, I work with educators, I work with colleges, I work one-on-one conversations with preachers and priests, and I'm on morning shows. I don't know. I talk to a lot of different people. I work with a lot of different people. And I kind of touched on this earlier when I was talking about my TED Talk. is when we have those conversations, no matter what the topic is or what we're talking about, when we can get to the point of expressing our fears or expressing the vulnerable side of what we're afraid of and owning it, it transforms every conversation. It doesn't matter if it's an executive with a team member or a preacher with a constituent in their church or with a host doing an interview or a conversation with my dad. It doesn't matter. If we can just break that barrier and get below the surface where we can see each other as human beings and not this thing or this thought that we believe, that is where the power is. That's where things shift. That's where we can now see each other as humans and not as enemies and not as people who are going against each other in this world. So it doesn't matter the work I've done throughout the years. It always surprises me when I can see people be willing and vulnerable enough to go to that place and admit why they're afraid, because that just opens the gateway to everything.
So good. So good. If you could offer one piece of advice to someone who is feeling disconnected or discouraged by the current state of this world, what would it be?
Sit outside. Look at the sky. Put your feet on the grass. Look at the sky. Look at the stars. There's so much more out there than what we think is being presented to us. Self-care is a really big deal for me, and taking care of my spirit. And I can tell when I don't do that. In this world, we have to make a conscious effort to do that, to put our phones down, to go be in nature, and just let the elements take care of us and take care of our spirits. That is the best piece of advice I can give.
I love it. It's so good. You've explored the importance. No, that's perfect. It really is perfect. If you've explored the importance of both being held and being free in your book. How do you see these two seemingly opposing concepts working together in our pursuit of meaningful connection?
Wow, you ask really good questions.
Work really hard at the questions.
They're really good. Well, being held to me means knowing that everything's going to be okay. It doesn't matter. Like, everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to work out no matter what. So I have this deep, deep belief that I'm always held, that anything can come at me and there's going to be something meaningful in whatever that is. So I think being held is knowing that, is trusting that, is believing and having faith that life is on my side, right? Being free is being free to choose, being free to make my choice on how and who I want to be in this world. So those two things, I think, work really, really well together. They may sound opposite, but when we're thinking about human connection, if we know we're held and we have this trust in life and we have faith that life is on our side, it's so much easier to be free and not feel the need to change or control what other people are doing or not doing. And so it's a great point of human connection, having those foundational beliefs that you're held and you're free. You do have the free will to choose who you want to be and how you want to be in the world, but you're also being taken care of. Life is truly on your side. So those two things have gotten me to where I am, definitely, and have impacted every human connection point I've ever had.
That's a beautiful answer. What is a question that you've never been asked in an interview, but you've always wanted to be asked?
Oh gosh. I really don't know. You have one on the tip of your tongue, don't you?
No.
No, you don't.
No, that's actually that's my question. And then when you say what the question is, then I'm going to ask you that question. That's my question.
I have no idea. Is that terrible?
All right. Hold on. Okay, I'll tell you what. I'm making this up completely. I don't even know if it'll make sense. If you were given the power, like you were giving the global authority to make decisions for the day, for the world, what would be your first decision made? Like an executive order, but it would be a global executive order that everyone had to follow. What would it be?
Everyone stay home and breathe. Put your phone down, turn your TV off, conversate with the people in your house, have dinner together, connect with the people you love. It would be around definitely human connection and just taking a beat and focus on what's really important. Just no technology, no news, no social media, put it all away, and let's have a minute. Let's have a breather.
Well done. Well done. This was so unexpected. I mean, I prepared for the questions and I normally have an idea of where things are going to go. No idea. Like I love when this happens. It's so satisfying for me. And I'm grateful for this because I do believe this is an important conversation. And I believe that there's people that are suffering in silence. One thing that I'm very grateful for being open, even though after being very open about my past and putting it in a book, and it's not a secret, you can Google me, and I'm like, that, of course, I have so much content now. I think you'd have to try harder to find, except you just read my book. It'll tell you all the evil I did. Anyway, my point is this. For as much as my truth scared people away from me, it is awfully gratifying knowing that when crap is hitting the fan for other people and they have nowhere else to turn, the first person they think of is me. And I have been blessed to meet with more like single women that are not looking for relationships. It's not about dating, but in just meetings and in discussion, or they'll come to me and they'll share with me about what they've gone through with their ex-husbands or their ex-boyfriends because of the secrets that they had. And I was known for, my secrets, my double life had a double life. I don't know how that many levels of shady exist, but they are. And I had that world. And it's amazing. I guess the reason I'm sharing this is for men out there that are harboring secrets because maybe you were molested as a kid and you're confused, or maybe you've always had the desires or the confusion. The women that are in your life love you for you, and all they really wanted was you to be honest. And they can deal with honesty, especially if you're loving them. And I promise you, to get what we want in life, we have to be honest about it. And yes, I know society judges, but there's no greater feeling in the world than having peace within yourself and knowing that you don't have secrets. And the life that we all want can only happen when we're honest about it. But the secrets that we keep, nothing good grows in the dark but mushrooms. It becomes toxic and poisonous, and the damage that can be done from our lies and cheating and sneaking around because we have an itch to scratch that we're not willing to be honest about. The damage that is done, it goes generational. The damage that I cause to people has generational effect. I can't fix those things. I've lived with the consequences every day of the decisions that I made. But even with that said, being able to be honest about what I did and what I've done and who I am now, that has been the most healing thing in the world for me. And at the same time, it's given me the life that I wanted. So I want to encourage all of you, if anything from this interview, I hope, there's so many things to take away and to build off of, but if there's anything in this interview that I really want you to take away from my perspective, it's that the truth matters. Because that's how you get to be who you really want to be. And there's really no reason to fear. and you can have that happiness. And again, even if it's a current relationship, there's people that are committing suicide over secrets. There's people that have PTSD because of secrets. If you love the people you're with, be honest with them. They need your honesty. And to be honest, the last thing I want to say about this is that there's somebody out there dying to know your truth. Dying. And your true story, your truth could be the very thing that removes that gun from their mouth. And I'm not trying to be dramatic, but I feel led to talk about, I know multiple people that committed suicide because of the shame of being bisexual or secretly gay. And I swore, like, even as a man of God, as long as I am the way that I am, I'm going to be honest about it. And I've never been happier. And my relationship with God is never better. So I want to encourage you all, just the truth is awesome. The truth is a superpower. The truth will set you free and everyone else that you've been held prison by. So anyway, I'm done with that sermon. Meagan, I just am in awe of you. I have so much respect for you, and I just enjoyed this. I'm rooting for you. You have a fan for life. And I would love for you to have the final word, share anything on your heart, plug anything you want to plug, anything you feel led to say. The floor is yours. You get the final word.
Well, first, I want to say thank you to you. I have really enjoyed our conversation. I've enjoyed your presence. I've enjoyed hearing your story. And I can feel that you are free and that you are happy and that you do have that light inside of you that is very apparent. And so I just wanted to reflect that back to you because it's very clear to me. So I guess my final word is simple. To not overcomplicate things. Just to add on to what you were saying, don't make things harder, because they're not as hard as you think they are. They're a lot easier. And things usually work out for the better with honesty. And so, yeah, that's my final word. Just, we tend to overcomplicate things when they don't need to be. And also, my TED Talk did come out 3 weeks ago, what to do when you disagree with someone you love. And this talk is really, really, really important to my heart. It's got like almost 32,000 views so far in 3 weeks, which is fantastic. Amazing engagement, great conversations happening over there. So if you need help working through hard relationships, tough conversations, it's full of actionable items that you can take away. So that's the most important work for me right now out in the world.